Hello, everyone. Tonight we are standing knee-deep in steam in a place where time pretends to be still and the air has a memory sharper than yours. You've come to a jungle so dense that even the birds feel claustrophobic. A jungle that holds its breath not for fear but for reverence. Because here the ground isn't just ground, it remembers. Beneath the ferns and vines and roots, the footprints of giants have sunk into the earth like whispered prayers, and in some places the jungle whispers back. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And hey, while you're listening, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're watching from. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise and let's get started tonight. You shuffle through moss-draped branches that brush your shoulders like old memories. The air is wet always, and your clothes are already clinging. You're barely 10 steps into the forest when you feel it a dip in the soil. Not wide, not deep, but intentional. The footprint is round at the back, wide at the front. Something massive stood here once. Maybe stood still. Maybe listened. Maybe it left something behind. Locals call this part of the forest Wakaipo, roughly the night that walks. Not walked. Present tense. They don't mean ghosts, not exactly. Spirits, sure. But more like shadows that remember how it felt to be alive. You step into the sauropod track without thinking. It holds a shallow pool rimmed with algae, but the water's so clear you can see your own foot bare, slightly trembling, hovering above the image of itself. The moment your heel sinks, you hear a bird stop singing. Not fade. Stop. Like a cut in an old cassette. People here believe the jungle holds breath for things it loved. And it loved the sauropods. Big, slow creatures with lungs the size of your tent necks, like cranes and eyes too gentle for their size. They lumbered across this land 90 million years ago. Ate plants. Fought only when they had to. Left tracks deeper than your dreams. One thing scientists do agree on, though they say it like it's no big deal, is that some of these ancient tracks fossilized not in rock, but in memory. The jungle grew around them, never quite erasing the indentations. A preserved footfall, soft and humid like the earth, still wants to feel the weight of giants. But you start to notice something else. Every time you find one of the sauropod tracks, the air changes. Not temperature, texture, like the pressure in your ears before a thunderstorm. And the leaves around it different. Lusher, greener, greedy for light but somehow more afraid of the ground. A few plants curl away from the depressions like they're avoiding something invisible. You catch yourself whispering, not to anyone, just to soften the noise of your own breath. The prints make you feel watched, but not in a creepy horror movie way. More like when you accidentally walk into a stranger's house and realize you were expected. Fact check moment. Did you know sauropods had a unique way of walking? Not like elephants, their front and back legs didn't move in tandem. The footfall sequence created an oscillating pattern, which meant each track was slightly offset from the last. That's why some trails zigzag like the animal was tipsy. Some paleontologists argue this was a design flaw. Others say size. It was intentional stability over speed. You crouch by another footprint. This one's filled with a strange moss that only grows in depressions that face west. The sunlight barely reaches it, and yet the moss glows faintly at twilight. Some tourists swear they've seen it pulse. Bioluminescent? Probably not. But historians still debate whether ancient civilizations here considered these prints sacred places where the ground could speak. What does it say? Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Maybe it says, remember how light used to fall through our necks like water through bamboo. Maybe it says, you should have brought bug spray. You move forward. More prints, some shallow. Some so deep they've collected sediment insects. Little tadpoles that must think they've won the evolutionary lottery. And then it happens your foot misses a print. It slips into the space between two tracks and suddenly you're aware of how fragile you are. Your toes dig into soft earth, the kind of soil that could given time become rock, fossilize, hold your shape forever. You don't want that. You look around. The sun's a half-disk behind the mist. Cicadas buzz like old fluorescent lights, a distant howl, monkey wind. Something else. Behind you a vine snaps, or a branch, or nothing. You start walking again slower now. The footprints seem to form a rhythm, left-right pause, left-right linger, as if the creature that made them had thoughts in between. As if it doubted its own direction. A breeze brushes your shoulder, warm, damp, but it's the pattern of the breeze that unsettles you. Like breath, like something exhaling nearby that has lungs far, far too large. You turn, nothing, except another footprint perfectly formed slightly overlapping the one you stood in 10 minutes ago. You don't remember it being that sharp, that fresh. You don't say anything out loud. Because now you're certain this part of the jungle hears you. And you're not alone. You're not a superstitious person, at least. That's what you've told yourself every day since your GPS stopped working 3 days ago. And yet here you are standing ankle-deep in a fossilized whisper that's holding warm water under a cold sky. The print is wide, almost the size of a small car, and perfectly smooth inside. Sauropods had soft pads under their feet like elephants do now, but nothing about this feels soft. It hums, not loudly, not musically, just a sound right below hearing, like the tone your old TV used to make when it was turned on but showing static. A vibration in your teeth, not your ears. You tilt your head and the feeling follows. You're surrounded by vines that tangle like headphone cords in your peripheral vision. They droop from above like eavesdropping elders. Somewhere a howler monkey lets out a scream laugh. It's not the monkey that unnerves you, it's that it stops as soon as you step out of the print. You blink, step back into the print. The hum returns. The monkey, wherever it is, goes silent again. Now you're definitely being weird. The puddle is shallow, barely covering the soles of your feet, but the temperature makes no sense. The air is cool, a post-rain breeze slipping through the understory. But the water warm, almost bath water. And clean. Cleaner than any other puddle you've passed. No mosquito larvae, no scum, not even a leaf. Just water and warmth and whatever lives in the echo between your bones. Locals call this one Hai Lele, the humming basin. The print rests on the lip of a low ravine, almost like it was placed there on purpose. One toe dip away from falling in. Some say the vibrations come from underground gases, a pressure seam that channels tremors up through fossilized mud. Others say it's breath. Leftover breath from something too large to bury, too loved to forget. Historians still debate whether ancient cultures' tribes long lost to jungle and time-designed ceremonial paths around these prints, or merely inherited the strange energy they left behind. One petroglyph found miles from here shows a spiral with long-necked creatures circling inward. No one's sure if it's a symbol of migration or entrapment. You crouch by the edge of the print fingers skimming the water. No ripples, but something moves beneath shadowy undefined. Just once, then gone. Probably your reflection, probably. Odd fact of the day. There's a species of frog in this region that uses ultrasonic chirps to communicate underground. Humans can't hear it, but some researchers claim the frogs only congregate in sauropod track zones. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe it's the sound of one ancient rhythm calling out to another. You lie flat beside the print. The jungle floor presses into your ribs. It's uncomfortable, itchy, but you don't move. You're trying to hear it more clearly, the hum. You think you can make out a beat now. Faint, like a drum buried under 10 feet of loam. 1, 2, pause, 1, 2, 3, pause. Then nothing. And in that nothing, your breath suddenly feels loud. Your lungs become rude guests. Even blinking feels disruptive. The print isn't just a depression in the mud. It's a space, an invitation. So you sit back up and pull your knees to your chest. You're watching the water for patterns, for signs, for anything that might suggest a reason. It hums only when you're near. You've heard of monks sitting by waterfalls for days just to understand the rhythm of silence. You're not a monk, but right now you get it. Then comes the shift. A breeze moves across your neck, not from the trees, but from below. The water in the print quivers, a faint ripple. Then another. You instinctively pull your feet out and instantly the water goes still. Not just still, dead still. Like a frozen lake with no current, no breath. The air thickens, compresses. You rub your temples. A low buzz starts in your jaw again. You try stepping back in. Nothing. The hum's gone. You wait a full minute. Still nothing. It's like whatever it was has recoiled. Or maybe it moved. Left to find a different print. One that's not suspicious of humans. Because here's the thing, no one tells you we're not the main characters. Not in jungles. Not in fossils. We're walk-ons in a much longer story. Background extras with thumbs and bad posture. A drone of insects rises in the distance, almost a relief. Some sense of normal returns. Until you remember what comes next. There are dozens of these prints scattered across this region, but Hailele is the only one known to make a sound. Some geologists think it might be related to fault lines, micro-seismic activity concentrated in this one spot. But fault lines don't know your name. They don't pulse only when you stand inside them, and you could swear when you blinked just now the water flinched. By now, the sun is barely a smudge behind the canopy. Gold and green mix in the sky like bruised fruit. You should be setting up your hammock, but your feet aren't moving. Something in the print has held on. Not physically, psychologically, like the feeling you get when you've left a party but think someone's still watching from the window. You finally step back and mark the spot with a tattered flag you don't care about losing. As you do, your ears pop. Just once. As if something invisible let go of your head. You walk away slowly, counting your steps. Every 10 you glance back. The print doesn't change, but it also doesn't feel empty. Somewhere behind the trees, a howler monkey hoots again. Only this time it sounds like laughter. You should be heading back to camp, but your feet have other ideas. They keep taking you deeper past the vines that grab at your ankles like gossiping neighbors, and under the canopy that's sealed tighter than a conspiracy. You're looking for something. You don't know what yet, but your soul seemed to. And that's the problem. Because somewhere along the way, your feet stopped feeling like your feet. It starts subtle. The ground feels different when you walk, more forgiving, too soft as if it expects you. Your toes splay wider than usual. Your stride lengthens. Your heels hit first. You're walking like something else, something bigger, something more patient. You pass a cluster of prints half swallowed by ferns. Your eyes scan the pattern left, right, left, each one as wide as a doorway, rimmed with damp moss, and those strange glowing beetles that you're pretending not to notice. They move in a ring around the water, never touching it. Like they know the rule, stay out of the echo. One of the local guides before he bailed on you yesterday morning warned you about this. Not in those words. He said, don't stand in them barefoot too long. The old spirits like to borrow legs. You laughed, obviously. Made a joke about renting them out, maybe getting a discount on jungle hiking. He didn't laugh. Just looked at your boots and said, better you keep those on. Except now they're off. You left them behind near Hailele when your feet started feeling itchy. And now you're barefoot like the prince wanted. Like you needed to be. The sensation grows with every step. A humming, then tingling, then something more intimate. Not pain, not pleasure, just presence. Like a second set of feet have lined up beneath yours, borrowing your skin. You start to imagine bones that don't belong to you, ligaments pulling in directions your muscles never trained for. It's not frightening, not yet. It's familiar in the wrong way. Like a childhood home rearranged by strangers. You reach a clearing. The light changes. Here filtered through hanging vines that twist into shapes you almost recognize, glyphs maybe. symbols, or just vines doing their vine thing. Either way, it's quiet. Too quiet. Even your breath sounds like an offense. In the center of the clearing is a single enormous sauropod track. This one's bone dry, but its edges are clean. Too clean. The forest should be reclaiming it, yet not a single leaf dares land inside. You step up to it, and then, without meaning to, you step in. It's immediate. A snap behind your eyes. Your vision sharpens. The sounds come back, but they're off. Too slow, too rich, like the forest is underwater. Your limbs feel heavy, not weak heavy, massive heavy, as if you've doubled in size and gravity has taken notice. And your feet. Your feet do not belong to you. You try lifting one, and it's like moving furniture that remembers its place in the room. There's resistance, then a give, then a sudden memory that isn't yours walking through mud so deep, it swallows knees, but your legs are taller than trees, so it doesn't matter. You gasp and stumble out of the track. The feeling fades instantly, like a song cut mid-note. Your breath is yours again. Your feet hurt now, stinging with pins and needles. You sit on a rock and rub your ankles, staring at them like they might start speaking. You laugh, but it sounds weird, too thin. So you try again, louder this time. Still no echo. Back at camp, you remember something a paleontologist once said on a podcast, offhand joking, but it stuck with you. Sauropods were basically walking ecosystems, he said. They probably carried entire forests in their skin folds and foot cracks. Entire forests? You think about that. About your own feet. About what might be crawling inside you now. Odd fact break: in some South American shamanic practices, walking backwards is believed to undo spiritual binding. Not metaphorically, literally. If something spiritual attaches itself to your steps, you walk them backward to unweave the thread. The spirits get confused. You get free. Hopefully. Which raises a fun question: if something's borrowing your legs now, whose steps are you walking? Historians still debate whether the jungle trails that follow sauropod prints were originally made by people or made of people. Cultures that tried to mimic the walk of the longnecks, hoping to share their immunity, their grace, their ancientness. But here's the thing. Humans can't really mimic a sauropod's walk. The stride's too long, the balance too different. So what happens when you think you're copying a giant, but your body starts doing it on its own? You get up wobbling a bit, your toes are still tingling. The forest's gotten darker. You've been here longer than you thought, but you're not tired, not even hungry. Your body feels occupied, like a hotel room after check-in. You take a step. Your hips swing oddly. You try to correct, but the correction feels wrong. So you let it go. Walk a little farther. Each footfall falls into rhythm, not yours, but pleasing nonetheless. A tree root trips you. Or tries to. You catch yourself just in time, and here's the weird part: you feel taller. Like the fall had farther to go. You decide to test it. You step into another print, barefoot, slow. This one's shallow, half full of leaf debris. But when your foot lands, it's like a circuit closes. Not again, you think. But it is. That sensation. The pressure behind your ribs, the thrum in your legs, the heaviness of memory, not your memory. You stand perfectly still, and you feel it. You are not alone in your body. Something old is curious, doesn't want to hurt you. Not yet. It just wants to walk. You take a step. It takes one with you. You've been walking for hours or minutes. Time gets slippery when you're sharing your legs with a stranger who hasn't existed for 90 million years. The forest tilts around you, trees leaning in like gossiping statues. You can't tell if you're being watched or remembered. You're not speaking aloud anymore. Words feel too light, too disrespectful. So you breathe instead, long, slow inhalations like you're trying to blend in with the fog. You reach the edge of a deep footprint, one that's filled with mist rather than water. That mist isn't moving with the breeze. It just hangs there, pulsing softly like a sleeping lung. You step in again because of course you do. This one's different. As soon as your chest aligns with the center of the print, you exhale. And then something breathes back. It's not a sound. It's not even air. It's pressure mirrored perfectly. Your breath leaves you, and a split second later, the same volume of air seems to re-enter your lungs, slightly altered. Colder, heavier, and flavored. There's a hint of mineral of moss, something ancient and green and unprocessed. You freeze breath held, then do it again. Inhale, exhale, answer. The echo doesn't come from behind you. It doesn't come from the forest. It comes from within the footprint, like the pit itself is responding, as if the track is breathing through you using your lungs like borrowed bellows. You look up. The forest around this print seems thinner, like the trees know better than to crowd it. Sunlight cuts through at a strange angle, illuminating motes of dust that shouldn't exist in this humidity. They rise slowly, spiraling like incense smoke. You try a short breath, quick and sharp out. The reply is slow, almost annoyed, like the print's trying to correct your rhythm. There's a theory, fringe but juicy, that certain fossils retain not just impressions but acoustic qualities. That under the right conditions, a dinosaur's footprint can act like a drum or a chamber. A resonant cavity, they call it. You could record a sound, play it back through one of these impressions, and the shape would modify the playback, like a prehistoric speaker. Most scientists dismiss it, but you're standing inside an ancient speaker that just played you like a flute. And now you're wondering, what else could it say? You close your eyes and try something new. You hum. The sound is awkward, low in your throat, embarrassing even, but the echo that answers is pure, smoother, almost melodic. It rounds out the imperfections of your hum and sends it back like it's been auto-tuned by moss and memory. You laugh. The print does not laugh back. You realize you're leaning into the moment a little too hard. Literally, you're starting to tilt forward, your feet sinking deeper into the muddy edge of the track. You backpedal fast, tumbling out and landing on your rear in a pile of damp leaves. The jungle's soundscape comes rushing back like someone hit play again. Birds, insects, a breeze, your own heartbeat. You sit there for a minute, catching your breath, feeling slightly used. You ever hear about how some medieval monks believed echoes were ghosts? Not the spooky chain-rattling kind, but resonant presences, souls trapped in certain spaces only audible when the geometry lined up just right. Like if a cathedral echoed wrong, it was considered cursed. Bad reverb meant bad spirits. You're not saying this print is haunted. You're also not saying that. You pull yourself up and walk away from the print only to find your breath now feels off, like your lungs are waiting for something to follow. Each exhale feels incomplete, like it was meant to be passed along, shared. You start to feel like you're just a whistle trying to remember its own note. You come across another footprint, not quite as deep but angled oddly half up the slope of a tree-covered incline. It looks like it shouldn't exist. The sauropod must have slipped or maybe leaned too far or was turning, but the shape is crisp. Too crisp. You climb in and try the breath trick again. Nothing. No echo. No hum. Just mud. One big squish. The silence stings. Historians still debate whether sauropods vocalized like whales, low resonant calls carried through earth and water, not just air. Some suggest they may have communicated using body weight, stomping out patterns in the soil that others could interpret, like seismic Morse code, which makes you wonder, are you trespassing on a conversation that never ended? You sit on the edge of the print and look down the path. The next 5 prints trail off into shadow like stepping stones into a dream you're not supposed to have. The air smells different now, sweet, almost sugary. Not jungle sweet, artificially sweet, like birthday cake, which makes 0 sense unless you've been inhaling too much fungus. Odd fact break. There's a rare mold that grows in tropical valleys that gives off a vanilla scent when it's about to release spores. Some folks mistake it for candy or baked goods. It's harmless but disorienting. Still, what if it's the scent of a place remembering celebration? A place where something massive once stood still, maybe even danced. You shake off the thought. You're not going to start believing in dinosaur dance rituals. Probably. A breeze kicks up again, soft but purposeful, curling around your face and brushing the tips of your ears. It carries no sound, not a whisper, just presence. Your lungs feel full again without effort. And then you hear it, just once. Your own breath played back, not a whisper, not a voice. Just your exhale mirrored from deeper in the trees. You freeze. No echo comes from flat surfaces. Someone else breathed like you. You wait body stiff. Then a second breath. From your right. Then silence. You look down at your feet, still muddy, still your own maybe. Then you do the one thing your instincts scream against. You exhale again. And you wait. Your breath is out there now, somewhere between the trees and the prints and whatever ancient joke this jungle is playing on you. You wait for the reply. 1 second, 2, 5, but nothing comes back. The air feels colder all of a sudden. You step back, your foot catching on a root, and you nearly fall again. But something stops you. Not your reflexes, not balance. And it feels like the ground rejects the fall, like it catches you. There's a soft rebound like pressing your palm against a memory foam mattress. Except the ground here is nothing but ferns and dirt, and that thick, dark soil that smells like everything that's ever died. You glance down. No, not a root. A vine. One that wasn't there before. And it's moved. Now, look, you've read enough travel blogs and watched enough survival documentaries to know vines don't just move. At least not in real time, but this one has clearly snaked itself away from a nearby footprint. Its tip curls gently like a question mark, as if it's deciding whether you're worth the effort. Here's where things get weird. Or, well, weirder. You start noticing the trees, not their height, not their leaves, but their posture. You've wandered through several clusters of prints by now. Some old, some shallow, some newer looking, which is not possible, right? And in each of those clusters, the trees bend. Not downward, not towards sunlight. Away. Away from the prints. Not a single trunk grows straight beside one. They lean back like they're afraid to intrude. Like they remember what made those impressions. Like they still think it might come back. You stare at a young sapling no thicker than your wrist. It's curved like a scythe, away from the edge of a double print. The leaves on its far side are greener, glossier, as if it's only thriving because it's being a good guest. Giving space. Showing respect. You think of that phrase the local man muttered before leaving you alone. Roots remember things humans don't. Maybe he wasn't being poetic. Maybe he meant it. You kneel beside the print brush, away some leaves, and uncover a pattern of small roots curling just beneath the surface. Some even loop delicately around the footprint's rim, avoiding entry. It's like they're tiptoeing. Or, this is insane, but you think it anyway, worshipping. Historians still debate whether ancient societies interpreted fossilized footprints as signs of gods or beasts. But there's a fringe theory buried in dusty journals and never mentioned in mainstream papers that some tribes didn't just avoid the prints. They planted around them on purpose, treating them like wells, or tombs, or speakers. You walk a little farther, weaving between vines and palms, until you find a massive banyan tree. Easily centuries old. Its roots spread out like fingers. One root thick as a thigh has grown over the edge of a sauropod print. It doesn't enter it, it builds a bridge across it. And here's the kicker. There's no bark on the part that touches the rim. It's smooth. Pale, like it's been worn down by breath or reverence or something older than friction. Odd fact break: in certain Himalayan regions, monks plant trees near ancient stone formations, but train the roots to grow around them, never across. Not for aesthetic reasons, for respect. There's an unspoken idea that the stone owns that space. It's a kind of spiritual property line. You start to get the same sense here. The trees don't own this land. The footprints do. The jungle built around them, not over them. These aren't relics, they're roommates. You feel something sharp in your palm. Thorns. You must have brushed a branch, but when you check, there's nothing. No thorn. Just a shallow scratch that looks a little too symmetrical, like a claw mark or a glyph. You touch it again. It hums. You step backward, almost stumbling into another print behind you. This one's deeper than the rest. Almost crater-like. The bottom is thick with wet soil, but again you notice the roots stop at the edge. Not one crosses over. Even the bugs avoid the center. You peer in and see nothing. Not mud, not water, not shadow, just nothing. A darkness that doesn't reflect, doesn't shimmer, doesn't move. You blink. Still there. You whisper into it, testing. No echo. Not this time. Just silence. Thick velvet crushing. You step back almost reverently. This one you feel in your bones is not for standing in. You skirt around it, careful not to disturb anything. The vines part for you, or maybe they guide you. It's getting hard to tell the difference. You keep walking until the jungle closes in again. Thicker, hotter, more aggressive. The roots here seem less polite, crossing paths, cracking rocks, strangling each other in slow-motion warfare. But none of them grow through a print. Not once. Every footprint you see now is surrounded by bending trunks and spiraling bark. A mosaic of avoidance. A choreography of fear and memory. And it hits you. You've seen this pattern before. Not here. Not in this jungle. In satellite photos. Forest clearings that form bizarre spirals. Tree rings that warp unnaturally. Strange gaps in vegetation in places too humid for gaps. Some call them animal trails. Others call them ghost paths. And now you wonder, are they not gaps at all but footprints? Old ones. So old that even the trees still lean back in silence. You don't know when you started whispering to yourself. Maybe around the 3rd hour of jungle walking. Maybe earlier. It's not words exactly, just soft rhythmic sounds, like you're trying not to wake something. Or maybe you already have. The jungle here is darker. The canopy's thicker, the air more syrup than oxygen. You swat at your neck, assuming another mosquito, but your fingers catch something hard. You look down. A beetle. And not just any beetle. This one gleams. Metallic green. Not glittering like sunlight on water, more like engine oil. Subtle, dark, hypnotic. You stare at it perched on your skin, unmoving. Then it lifts its front leg almost in greeting before it skitters down into the damp leaf litter below. You crouch. There are more of them. A whole cluster circling a shallow footprint filled with fine reddish clay. They don't touch the water, but they move with purpose, tracing the outline with obsessive precision. You should feel grossed out, maybe even alarmed. But there's something ceremonial about it, like they're conducting a ritual or guarding something that hasn't yet arrived. Odd fact time. In 2019, entomologists discovered a beetle species in the Amazon that only lives inside the deep grooves of jaguar claw marks. That's its entire habitat. A depression in a tree from one specific predator. It doesn't live anywhere else. Not on the bark, not on the leaves, just in those tiny, aggressive scars. What you're seeing here, same vibe, but bigger. And much, much older. You watch as one beetle pauses and turns to face the center of the print. It flutters its wings briefly like a shrug and then burrows down into the clay. Gone. You lean closer, eyes narrowing. There's a faint pattern in the print's surface. Not carved. Not eroded. Something in between. It looks like a spiral, but flattened, like someone stirred ancient soup with a spoon the size of a canoe. Or like airflow frozen into sediment. The beetles love it. Historians still debate whether creatures like this beetle evolved because of the prints or whether they were drawn to them later. There's no known reason a beetle should prefer fossilized impressions. No evolutionary advantage, unless the prints give off something. A mineral, a vibration, a scent only beetles can smell, something small, subtle, unreadable to you, but irresistible to them. You reach out and lightly touch the spiral with your fingertip. The clay is damp but firm like dried blood after rain. Warm too, always warm. You pull back your hand and find a faint green sheen. Not paint, not moss. Beetle residue. You wipe it on your pant leg, but your skin tingles for several minutes after. The beetles have no nest, no larvae, no visible purpose. They just exist here. Quiet, diligent, like monks in a temple, only they can read. You remember one of the stranger field guides a researcher gave you years ago. It had a full-page warning under the heading Microfauna Reverence Patterns. Apparently, some insects behave reverently around objects shaped like tracks. They gather in circles. They pulse in time. They wait. No explanation. Just a photo of a snail sitting motionless inside a fossilized lion track and a caption that simply read, "Some prints aren't for erasing." You take a slow breath and stand up. Another beetle lands on your boot, stays there a moment, then flutters off. Doesn't seem scared. You wonder absently if they can tell whether you've stepped in the prints before. Whether you've already been marked. You move on. The jungle opens into another clearing, small, almost a pocket of space between limbs. And there in the center is a footprint larger than the rest, not deeper, just cleaner. No leaves, no debris, and no beetles. It feels abandoned. You approach carefully, cautiously, like it might be asleep. The air around this one is still. You can hear the beetles nearby, but none enter. They circle the rim like a moat of legs and wings and chlorophyll armor. You kneel beside it. There's a feeling you can't name. The way your grandmother's attic used to feel in late summer, hot but still. Waiting. Dust floating in the shape of old furniture. Breaths held by furniture that no longer exists. You reach into your backpack and pull out a packet of trail mix. It's been crushed by now, mostly sunflower seed dust and peanut shrapnel. You scatter a few bits near the edge, curious. The beetles don't react. You toss one piece into the center of the print. Nothing happens. Then one beetle breaks the circle. It walks forward, crosses into the print just barely, and then stops. Its body seizes all 6 legs stiff. Its wings flutter once, and then it reverses, backwards, precisely, like rewinding a tape. It exits the print and resumes circling, never deviating again. You stand up slowly. This print is different. You don't know how, but it is. Maybe some were made by different sauropods. Maybe some prints carry different stories, different memories, some that invite, some that don't. This one feels like a sealed envelope. You walk around it, careful not to cross the beetle's path. Each step you take feels a bit heavier now, like gravity's pressing in just a little more, like the earth knows you're here, and it's thinking about what to do with you. You pause before re-entering the trail, taking one last look at the glimmering green guardians. They've resumed their pattern, always clockwise, always precise, and you can't help but wonder, are they worshipping or are they warning? Rain arrives without permission, as it always does in jungles. One minute you're dryish and surrounded by buzzing things, the next, everything is wet, even your thoughts. You tilt your head to the sky, half laughing, and immediately regret it as warm droplets smack your eyelids like over-enthusiastic greetings. It's not a storm yet, just a lazy downpour like the forest sighing through its leaves. You wipe your face with your sleeve and duck under a tree, though it offers about as much protection as a napkin in a monsoon. You're already soaked, may as well keep moving. Then the print. You spot it before you hear it or maybe feel it. A massive footprint, perfectly round and surprisingly intact. It's tucked between 2 roots like a secret held too long. And despite the thick canopy above, this one is filling with rain fast. That's not unusual. What is unusual is that it's steaming. You blink hard. The water is warm, warmer than the rain. You check the surrounding prints, cool puddles, just what you'd expect. But this one's giving off faint vapor like a tea kettle that forgot it wasn't plugged in. You squat beside it. The steam curls upward lazily, twining around your neck. You lean closer, careful not to touch the water. It smells like stone, clean stone, no moss, no soil, just mineral heat. You pull your canteen from your belt and dip a fingertip into the water. Yep, definitely warm, not boiling but oddly cozy, like it's been waiting for someone to drop in, like a bath left drawn too long. You glance around. Nothing. No sun overhead, no geothermal vent, no volcanic rock. Just a warm footprint in a wet forest and a part of your brain screaming, "Don't get in! Of course, the rest of your brain, the part that's been whispering, maybe this is meant for you wins. You slip off your pack and sit at the edge. Dip one foot in, then the other. It's incredible. The heat rises slowly up your legs like it's being polite. Your calves twitch not with pain, but memory. Like they remember stepping through a place that wasn't shaped like Earth. You're not imagining it. This print isn't just warm, it's breathing. The temperature pulses ever so slightly. Warmer then less so. Warmer again. Almost like tides or a heartbeat. You check your own pulse. It matches. For a moment. Then the print takes the lead. You start to laugh because it's absurd. A footprint filled with rainwater that heats itself and synchronizes to your body like an over-enthusiastic fitness tracker. What even is this place? And then you remember what the elders said before disappearing into the trees. Some spirits never left. They just wait for the weather. Historians still debate whether ancient peoples used dinosaur tracks as spiritual hot springs or avoided them entirely. Some records are contradictory. One cave painting shows people dancing in circles around a steaming print. Another shows them fleeing from it. It's unclear if they were worshipping or running. You lean back, letting the rain cool your face while the print warms your feet. It's a strange comfort, like two climates shaking hands across your body. And that's when you hear it. A drip, not from the trees. From below, you sit up. The water in the print is rippling in an odd pattern, not outward from the center, but in rhythmic concentric circles toward it. Inward ripples, as if the water's being pulled by something beneath. A soft, sucking sound follows. Not strong, not scary, just insistent. You pull your feet out. The ripples stop instantly. You lean over, watch. Nothing. Perfect stillness again. You reach in with your hand. Water still warm, still calm. You stay perfectly still, hand submerged. 30 seconds later, the pull returns. A gentle tug like something brushing your palm, asking you to lean in just a bit more. You withdraw your hand, water clinging to your fingers like string. Odd fact of the hour, some frogs can detect subtle changes in barometric pressure through the water they sit in. They can sense an oncoming storm before a single cloud arrives. Some even change color in response. What if these prints, these watery bowls, don't just collect rain, but read it? What if they're instruments? You stand up slightly shaky. Your legs feel fresh, better than before, actually. The tightness in your calves from hiking all day is gone. Not reduced, gone. Like the water ironed the tension out of you. It should unsettle you more than it does. You sling your backpack back on and step away. The print seems to sigh. There's a faint gurgle, as if it's settling back into sleep. You glance behind you as you move on, half expecting the water to boil or leap up or whisper your name. It does none of that. Instead, the next print appears, and this one's already steaming even though the rain hasn't touched it yet. You crouch beside it. Same structure, same warmth, but this one has a darker hue, almost a rust color along the edges. A smell rises from it, not unpleasant, just old, like forgotten stones or antique fabric. Something that was once worn proudly and then folded into a drawer for centuries. You don't step in this time. You wait. Watch. The steam rises in two strands, now curling in opposite directions. And you swear just for a second they form the shape of a neck and head. Long, graceful, sauropod, then gone. You stagger back, rain blinding you for a moment. You blink hard. The steam curls again, now just mist. Just jungle breath. You want to believe it was nothing. But you've stepped in too many prints now. You've walked too far into the memory of this place. It remembers you. And now, maybe it's testing you. You spend the night under a shallow rock overhang, half dry, half drenched, entirely haunted. Not by ghosts, at least not in the traditional sense. No faces in the mist. No glowing eyes between trees. Just the lingering warmth of that footprint, water pulsing up your calves like old blood trying to remember how to be yours. You don't sleep. Not really. Because every time your eyes start to close, you hear footsteps. Soft ones. Not animal, not human, just wet flesh against soft earth, like something walking barefoot slowly behind your thoughts. Morning comes quietly. No fanfare, just a cool breeze and that pale green light that leaks in when the sun's unsure of itself. You pack up in silence, not because you're scared, but because silence feels appropriate now. The forest has been holding its breath for something. You're not sure if it's done waiting. And that's when you see her, the old woman. She's walking backward through the trees, barefoot, thin legs stepping carefully through leaves and roots, like she's avoiding a pattern only she can see. Her hair is white and coiled, her spine bowed but not broken. She doesn't glance at you, doesn't speak, just keeps walking in reverse. Slow, smooth, practiced. She reaches a sauropod print, the steaming kind, and walks around it 3 times still backward. And then she stops, lowers herself to the ground beside it, sits cross-legged and begins to hum. You're rooted, watching, not blinking. Her hum is low, nasal, a single note held long. It vibrates something in your ribs. She tilts her head and finally looks at you and smiles. Not warmly, not unkindly either. Just knowingly, like you've been seen, properly categorized. You step closer, and she says in a voice that sounds like dry leaves being crushed, "You let it follow you, didn't you?" You don't answer right away. Your throat's dry. Your mouth forgets how to word. She gestures toward your legs. Spirits like the warm ones, the wandering ones. You gave it space. You look down at your calves, still bare, still tingling faintly like the warmth hasn't really faded. How do I ungive it? You finally manage, only half joking. She chuckles. It's the rustling sound again. That depends. You want it gone or just quieter? You sit down a few feet from her, not quite in the print's range. She dips her fingers into the water and flicks droplets onto her own feet. "Walked in a print too young," she murmurs. "Didn't mean to. Took it home. It made everything too heavy. My cat stopped looking at me. My shadow doubled itself." You raise an eyebrow. She shrugs. "You think it's poetry until your laundry starts dripping before it's wet." Odd fact break: in some Indonesian islands, elders believe you can inherit the footprint of a forest god by accident, just by stepping on the wrong trail at the wrong time. It doesn't curse you exactly, but it moves into your life like a polite tenant, rearranging, whispering, sleeping beside your name. You tell her about the warm water, the breath echoes, the beetles. She nods through all of it. "It's not evil," she says, "but it doesn't like being forgotten." She stands slower than you'd like, but with certainty. Steps backward again 3 paces and circles the print once more. "You want it to quiet down?" she asks. You nod. She points to the print. "Then walk backward around it, at dawn. Once for each footprint you stepped in. If it follows again after that, it likes you too much, and you'll have to learn to walk with it." You look up. "What happens if I don't?" She doesn't smile this time. "Then it'll start walking for you." That's when you notice her shadow. It's not hers. It's the shape of something tall, long-necked, 4-limbed. Its tail curls behind her, low and thin like smoke. You blink, and it's gone. She steps into the forest, still backward, and vanishes between the trees, her bare heels never making a sound. You sit alone by the footprint. The jungle stirs quietly. Leaves fall without breeze. A bird calls from somewhere above, but it sounds like a question mark. You glance down at your feet, then stand, and you begin walking backward around the print. 1 full circle, then a second, then a third. It's clumsy at first. Your heels catch, a vine brushes your ankle, you nearly fall. But by the 3rd loop, your steps become smoother, like something's guiding you, or adjusting to you. With each loop, the air feels lighter. The pressure around your ribs loosens. That odd feeling in your legs fades, not entirely, but enough. You finish the final loop and stop. Nothing happens. No wind, no whisper, no breath. But the print looks different now. Less hot. More like memory, faded around the edges. You look behind you. There are no other footprints, except one, next to yours. Barefoot, smaller, pointing the wrong direction. You start keeping count. Not of hours or miles, but of how many footprints you pass, the real kind, the ancient ones. You count them because it helps. You think if I can measure them, they'll behave. You're wrong, of course. This morning, early gray full of fog, you counted 11. Some shallow, some deep, all familiar. The same path you took yesterday. You could map it in your sleep now, one under the banyan root, two beside the crooked palm. The triple cluster like stepping stones near the ridge. You're getting good at recognizing them. Until today, because today they're gone. You rub your eyes. Stand in the same patch of moss you've stood in twice already. There should be one print directly to your left. It's not there. The moss is smooth, undisturbed. No depression, no edge, not even a hint of a curve. You move forward 10 steps, where the 3 cluster prints should be, the ones you photographed. Nothing, no prints, just wet leaves and loose twigs. You drop your pack, check your phone. Still no signal, but the gallery's there. You flip through photos. Yup, same spot, same trees, clearly defined sauropod prints. One has a leaf stuck in the clay like a coaster in a wine spill. It's in the photo, it's not here now. You mutter something not quite polite. Maybe erosion. A storm. But the forest floor hasn't changed. Not a single fallen tree, no sign of flooding or landslides, just erasure. You crouch, press your palm into the earth where the largest print was. Firm, solid. The moss gives a little like memory foam, but that's it. And then you remember what the old woman said. Some spirits walk for you. You stand up and turn slowly in place. Then you take 10 steps forward. And there it is, a footprint. Not just any one of the ones from yesterday. Clean, perfect, full of shallow water catching the early light like polished glass. But it's in the wrong place. It should be 10 meters back. You measured it, photographed it, marked the tree beside it with your knife. That tree, still marked, but the print moved. You crouch again, check the edges. No disturbance, no dragged soil, no trick. It's as if the ground unprinted itself, and then chose to put the track somewhere else. Historians still debate whether certain fossilized tracks actually wandered over time. It sounds ridiculous, rocks don't move after all. But some early maps of dinosaur trackways from the 1800s don't match the current locations. Scholars blame poor surveying, erosion, even fraud. But one or two whisper a different theory: the land isn't fixed. Memory isn't linear. Some tracks are made by things still thinking. You walk ahead half hoping for more inconsistencies. You find them. Every print from the last 2 days has shifted slightly. Some moved 10 paces, others have rotated. One even swapped sides of the path. They're not in random positions, they're sharper, fresher, like they reappeared with intention. And worse, some of them are new, brand new, still damp, still warm. You know this because you step into one without thinking and your foot sinks slightly into soft clay, fresh clay. You yank your foot back out, heart hammering. This isn't ancient. This was made recently. Odd fact. In deserts, there are wind-formed indentations that mimic animal tracks. Geologists call them ghost prints. They're real, tangible, but not true prints, just illusions created by wind moisture and time. Except you're not in a desert. And these aren't illusions, you felt them, walked in them, photographed them. Which means either A, you're losing your mind. B, the earth is rewriting itself. C, you're not the only one walking out here. You don't know which is worse. Your next few steps are cautious. You don't step in anything without checking twice. Every print now feels like a test. Will it hum? Will it echo? Will it shift when you blink? You pass a print that's unfamiliar. It's smaller than the others. Still sauropod-shaped but shallower, more rounded. Less sure of itself, like a juvenile. A first step. You stare at it. Then at your own feet. Then at the ground behind you. Because now you're seeing something new. Your footprints. From earlier today, maybe even yesterday. They're there. Muddy. Unmistakable. But they're being joined, no shadowed by another set. Barefoot. Smaller. Perfectly parallel. You crouch, Compare them. Yours are deeper, wider, human. The others, childlike and smooth. No toe splay, no arch, just impressions, like a sculpture of a step rather than the real thing. They follow yours precisely. You walk 5 steps forward, then turn. The second set now includes 5 more prints, matching yours. Exactly. You run your hand over one. It's still forming. The edges are completing themselves like a puzzle closing as if pressed by an invisible foot that weighs just enough to mean something. You back away. No use running. You won't outrun a shadow that knows how you think. Instead, you walk back to where you started this morning. And just like that, all the prints are back. Every last one. In the original positions. Like someone reset the board while you blinked. You're not sure whether to feel relief or panic. The only thing that hasn't reset, the second set of footprints, still beside yours, still growing, still barefoot. You're not superstitious. You've told yourself that again and again like a mantra, wrapped in denial. But superstition isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's just a way to organize fear, to give it structure. Rules. You can follow rules. You're good at that. What you're not good at, sleeping through frogs chanting your name. It starts just after twilight. That blue hour when the sky holds its breath and the jungle trades birdsong for chorus. You've made camp again this time, far from the wandering prince. Or so you thought. Your tent's propped against a slope half hidden under vines. The air is warm, heavy with the day's breath. You're in your sleeping bag pretending not to think when you hear it. First frog low, pause. Second frog farther away, Gan, longer pause. Third frog, I. You sit up, very still, very stupid. A few moments pass. You laugh nervously. You don't say your name aloud, because if you do, you're afraid they'll answer. The frogs go again, this time in rhythm. Low. Gan. I. 3 frogs. 3 syllables repeated. The timing is too perfect, too precise. You've heard frog choruses before. This isn't that. This is a sequence, a message, or a roll call. And then a fourth voice joins in. You freeze. Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's Roo or Blue or something else frogs say when they're bored. But it sounded like you. You unzip the tent. The night is thick, not quite dark. More like a curtain drawn halfway. Moonlight sifts through the leaves in narrow blades. And under that silver haze the frogs croak again. Lo! Gan! Hey! You stand barefoot on the wet earth. You don't remember removing your socks. There's a sauropod print 10 paces away. One of the clean ones. Smooth edges, water like black tea. And around it frogs, a ring of them. Motionless, just throats pulsing, echoing syllables. You whisper, nope, because that's all you have left to say. Odd fact break. In certain Amazonian tribes, it's believed frogs can carry the memory of footsteps. Not literally, but spiritually. The croaking pattern changes depending on who's passed by. Some shamans use frog songs to track people through the forest. They say frogs will sing you home or sing you lost. Historians still debate whether the naming frogs described in 16th century exploration logs were real animals or metaphors. But the records exist. One journal even notes 3 croakers each with a piece of our scout's name carried on till dawn. He wept, would not walk again. You circle the print. The frogs don't flinch. They just keep reciting, like a script, your name, or close enough to it. And now your name feels like a leash. You try clapping your hands, stomping, shouting. The frogs pause, then restart, softer this time. Lo, Gan, I, you. You crouch by the print and glare at the water. Your reflection stares back, but the shape beside you, not yours. Smaller, barefoot, tilted head, a blur in the water. You turn, nothing, no one. But your skin is goose-pimpled now despite the heat. You remember the old woman's words? If it likes you too much, you'll have to learn to walk with it. You sit beside the print, not in it. A compromise. The frogs continue their chant steady like heartbeat percussion. And for a second you imagine this isn't hostile. What if it's not a warning? What if it's a welcome? A roll call for a member who didn't know they were invited? What if your name has already been added to the jungle's rhythm? You reach into the print, not all the way, just your fingers. The water's still warm, still welcoming. You whisper your name into your palm, then lower it beneath the surface. The frogs stop. All of them. Instant silence, like a plug pulled from the night. You yank your hand out. Still silence. No rustling, no chirping, no buzz. Even the wind feels embarrassed. Then from somewhere just behind your left ear, a single croak. Your name. Full. Perfect. You spin. Nothing. Just a shimmer between trees. Like heat. Like a shape that almost decides to be seen. You walk backward to your tent. Zip it shut. Crawl inside. Lie on your back with your hands on your chest like a mummy who regrets staying up late. You don't sleep. Not yet. But eventually, when your eyes do finally close, you dream of frogs with human voices, and prints that echo in syllables, and a name that isn't quite yours but might be soon. Morning comes like a rumor, quiet, slow, and impossible to believe at first. The jungle's still damp, your clothes are still clinging, and your tent zipper has moss on it that definitely wasn't there yesterday. You slide out feet, hitting the muddy earth like old regrets. Something's different. The frogs are gone. No sounds except your own breath and the soft hiss of trees exchanging secrets in leaf-rustled code. You almost pack up camp before noticing the tree. A few meters away, right beside a sauropod footprint you've walked past twice now without fanfare. It's a thick tree ancient with bark so gnarled it looks sculpted. But it's not the tree itself that stops you. It's what's carved into it. A story. A deeply scored tale etched into the bark like a slow conversation with time. You step closer. The first panel is simple as spiral. Beneath it, a creature long-necked, unmistakably sauropod mid-step. Its legs curve like parentheses framing what might be other footprints beneath. You blink. Did someone carve this recently? No. The cuts are weathered, softened by age. Moss grows in some grooves. Lichen has filled in parts of the creature's tail. You run your fingers over the second panel. A human figure now tiny compared to the sauropod walking behind it. Not in front, not beside, behind. The next carving, the human stepping into the footprints one by one. There's a detail you nearly miss: waves. The prints are filled with water. It's the next part that gets eerie. The fourth panel shows two humans now. Or is it one human with a second shadow? Their arms are stretched together, their heads tilted. The second figure seems hollow, not outlined, just implied. An echo of the first. You swallow hard. Odd fact. Some indigenous Amazonian cultures carve living trees with ritual stories, believing the tree continues the narrative by growing over it. The carvings get distorted, buried, expanded. The story literally changes with time. It's an agreement the forest tells the ending. But this story, this one stops. Mid-panel, the fifth image is incomplete. A hand. Outstretched. Reaching for something not yet drawn. Half-carved lines dangle like half-written sentences. There's even a patch of bark stripped clean but never engraved. You scan the ground. There, just under the tree, two old carving tools. One is rusted into a useless hook. The other, still mostly intact, rests with the handle buried in the dirt. No footprints around them. No signs of struggle. Just abandonment, like the story walked off. You look back at the tree. The spiral symbol returns in the top right corner, repeated and mirrored. A full cycle, then broken. You think back to the spiral you saw in the clay, the one etched into the beetle-ringed footprint. Same shape. Historians still debate whether spirals in ancient South American forest art were literal maps, spiritual metaphors, or weather symbols. Some believe they marked migration, others portals, and a few suggest they represent listening, A spiral of sound like an ear, like a footprint that hears. You step back. The tree looms taller now. The footprint at its base glares up like an open eye. You peer into the unfinished panel one more time, and that's when you notice something chilling, carved in a smaller hand, lower on the bark, barely visible under the moss. I can't finish it until it stops walking. You whisper the words aloud and the jungle responds with a single rustle. A branch snaps somewhere behind you. A frog croaks once sharply, then nothing. You move away from the tree, slowly, respectfully. You don't turn your back to it. You keep walking, following a path you didn't see yesterday, one that's clearly been there for years. It loops around the footprint, not through it, and you finally understand the purpose of those old woman's backward steps. This isn't about avoidance. It's about unfinished stories, incomplete tracks, things that start walking with you and forget how to stop. You come to another tree not as large but marked the same way. This one's different. No sauropods, no spirals, just human footprints. Single file, then double, then slowly they vanish. The last panel, a blank footprint. And beneath it, etched in the same small hand as before, it's telling its own version now. You glance down. The soil at your feet is soft. You lift your foot to move forward and realize there's already a footprint there. Yours. But ahead of you, waiting. You stare at the footprint. It's yours. The shape, the angle, even the little crescent scar where your right toe curves in awkwardly. It's not similar. It's exact. But you haven't stepped there yet. It's ahead of you. A single print pressed deep into the moss, waiting like a bookmark in someone else's story. You take one careful step forward and place your foot inside it. It fits too well, too warmly. The moment your heel settles, the forest seems to exhale no dramatic gust of wind, just a subtle slackening, as if something unseen unclenched. You breathe, and then the feather falls. At first, it's just a blur in your peripheral vision, a pale shape drifting downward from the canopy. You look up. Nothing above but sky mottled green and thick branches braided like jungle cables. No bird, no wind, just the feather. Except it doesn't fall. Not exactly. It hovers, suspended in air, spinning slowly, like a coin deciding which side to land on. You squint. It's not small, about the length of your forearm, and it isn't white. It's a kind of iridescent gray like oil on water. The edges are darker, tinged in charcoal. It could be from a modern bird, but your gut says no. It doesn't fall. It rises. Slowly, deliberately, it floats upward against gravity, against reason, until it hovers just above the center of a nearby footprint. A dry one this time, deep and perfect. The feather stays there spinning gently. You walk closer, careful not to blink too hard in case it vanishes the moment you disbelieve it. Odd fact time. Some rainforest birds molt feathers that can catch thermals strong enough to lift them briefly. Scientists say it's a rare accident of physics and humidity, but those feathers don't hover. They don't choose. This one chooses. It stays above the footprint like a compass needle. Historians still debate whether ancient jungle dwellers associated feathers with sky spirits or something else entirely. Messages from above, from ancestors, from creatures that once shared the canopy. Some carvings show long-necked beasts with feathered crests laughable to early paleontology and now not so far-fetched. You reach out just to see what happens. The feather flinches, a tiny shift, not from your fingers but as if the print beneath it had exhaled, and then it dips. Slowly, gently, the feather descends, still spinning until it touches the center of the footprint. It doesn't land, it settles. Like it was expected. You kneel. The feather rests perfectly in the indentation, not ruffled, not damp. It's as if it never belonged to anything with wings at all, but instead to the memory of wings. That's when you notice something in the dust beneath it, tiny patterns etched into the center of the print. Not letters, not glyphs, just lines. But they curve and twist with intention. A spiral, of course. But this one isn't perfect. It breaks halfway through. like the carver forgot the next part, or couldn't finish it. Your skin prickles, because what kind of creature leaves a spiral in the center of its own footprint, not one with feet, but maybe one with memory? You back away, and the feather lifts again. No hands, no wind, just rising. It floats backward now away from you above the trees. Not fast, not rushed, just deliberate. It hovers for a moment between the branches, backlit, otherworldly, and then it's gone. As if it was never meant to touch the ground for long. You stand there a while. You forget the sweat, the heat, the growing ache in your shoulders. All you see now is the way the feather left. The space it cut through the air, the direction, back toward the cluster of prints from earlier. You follow, not because you want to, because you have to. Because now you're starting to believe something no one said out loud. These prints aren't just reminders of the past. They are instructions. You trace your steps in reverse back through the bend in the trees past the banyan bridge and the beetle shrine. And sure enough, the prints have changed again. One new footprint, not a sauropod's, yours, but deeper. And beside it, one you've never made. Barefoot, the size of a child's, perfectly pressed, edges clean. You feel it before you hear it, a soft shift in the wind, a prickle across your spine like someone just tucked in your shirt tag. And then a voice, not a word, just a tone. A sigh through leaves. A sound like stone dust whispering across old parchment. Not threatening, just present. You don't turn around. You just whisper, okay. Because you know now, something has followed you. Not from malice, not from hunger, but from recognition. A spirit that once lived in the footprints of something unimaginably large. Now walking in yours. You start walking. Not forward, not back. Just around. The prints form a trail now looping through a part of the forest you swear wasn't there yesterday. And not a messy jungle path either. This is organized. Intentional. Each sauropod print spaced evenly, their edges clean, undisturbed by fallen leaves. The path loops left, then right, then dips slightly, like it remembers the weight that shaped it. You step into the first print and feel that familiar warmth. Not hot, not welcoming, just aware. A gentle reminder. We see you. Second print. The silence deepens. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of listening. Third print. You pause. Look around. The jungle is still the jungle. Trees, vines, bugs making bug noises, but something's changed. The light, maybe. Or the way your breath disappears faster into the air. Or how your shadow is no longer traveling alone. Odd fact break. Some researchers believe certain migratory animals follow invisible memory paths left behind by earlier generations' routes coded not in genes, but in landscape recognition. A shape in the hills, a certain bend in the river, like walking déjà vu. You think of that now as the path begins to curve. Again, it loops, and loops again. You recognize a tree twice. A cluster of prints 3 times. The spiral in the clay 4. But here's the thing. The sounds change every time. First, loop cicadas buzz. Monkeys call in the distance. Standard jungle mixtape. Second loop. No cicadas, just wind, that's all. Just one long breath of trees. Third loop. There's a beat, a rhythm, faint, like something tapping on wood. Not random, not human. Fourth loop. The frogs return, and they're laughing now. You pause, crouch by one of the prints and scoop a handful of earth. It's cool, damp, smells the same. But then you blink. The leaves around you have changed. That same tree from loop 1, it's leaning a little more now. Its roots exposed like it's aging between steps. That spiral. It's longer now, an extra twist. One more curl than last time. You take a slow breath. This isn't a loop, it's a rewrite. Historians still debate whether ancient forest rituals were circular by design, or just the result of getting lost and pretending it was on purpose. Some say loops were used to trap spirits in repetition. Others say it was to honor memory, to wear a groove into time. so that nothing, not even forgetting, could fully erase it. You move on. Fifth loop, you see footprints beside your own. Not yours. Not barefoot, but wide. Three-toed. Familiar. Like something ancient tried to follow you but only knew how to walk in circles. You stop. You're sweating now. Not from heat, from pressure. The kind that builds behind your eyes before a storm. You turn sharply, stepping out of the print path. The jungle pushes back. Vines tighten. Branches hang lower. The light dims. The way your skin goosebumps says don't cheat. So you step back in. The path softens and continues. You feel something brush your elbow light like silk. You look. A feather again. Smaller, not floating this time. Perched on your shoulder, and it stays there. You walk, and it walks with you. There's no denying it now, this path is alive. Each footprint isn't just a fossil, it's a breath, a heartbeat. And with each loop, you're stepping deeper into something that doesn't have an exit. You stop counting the loops. You start counting the differences. New shadows, new sounds, and now a scent smoke, sweet, faint like incense made from moss and pine. You crouch near another print, expecting the usual warmth. This one is cold, not lifeless, waiting. You whisper into it just to see what happens. The whisper comes back, but not yours. A different voice. Not English, not language, just feeling, regret maybe, or patience. You stand. Behind you, leaves rustle. You don't turn. You just say softly, "Still walking, aren't you?" A pause. And then one step. Not yours, but beside yours. Not louder, just heavier. You don't panic. You nod. Because somehow you understand now. This thing, this spirit, this memory, it isn't trying to haunt you. It's trying to finish the loop. It started walking in something else's footsteps. Now it's trying to find where yours end. And you're the only one willing to walk it there. You've stopped checking your compass. It spins anyway, like it's nervous. You tuck it into your bag and let the jungle take over the role of direction, because the prints are still there. You no longer question them. They appear before you now as if laid fresh, smooth edges, no leaf clutter, just patient earth asking for your next step. Twilight comes again, slow and smoky. The sky above the canopy doesn't change color so much as it drains, leaving behind a kind of hush. You pause for water, sitting by one of the deeper impressions, this one wide enough to lie in. You stare at it for a moment. Then you notice it, the shadows. Not the ones cast by trees or your pack or your tired knees, the shadows inside the print. They don't move. They don't shift. They just pool. They gather like ink in the center, darker than they should be. Not deeper, just denser. As if they aren't reacting to the sun or the shape, but to something else entirely. You lean in. There are no reflections. The water, if there is any, is mirrorless. Matte. Blacker than night. You wave your hand above the print. The shadow doesn't follow. You whisper, "Hello." Your voice gets swallowed. Not echoed, not bounced back. Eaten. Odd fact, break in ancient Mesopotamian folklore, shadow was considered a living entity. It wasn't metaphorical. Your shadow could detach, wander, follow others. Some cultures believed that stepping into a god's shadow could either curse you or grant you wisdom. Depending on the god's mood, you slide a stone toward the center of the print. It stops. Not at the rim, not halfway in. Mid-air, it hovers for a second, impossible, then drops as if pulled. No splash, no ripple, just gone. You step back. That's when you realize you've seen this print before. This exact one. The curve of it. The small notch on the left side, you passed it yesterday, but then it was shallow, full of dust, harmless. Now it's feeding. The shadows slither, almost fluid, wrapping into knots and releasing again like they're trying to think. You glance down at your own shadow. It's longer than it should be, and it's moving slightly. Not with you, beside you. You freeze. The air has weight now, like someone threw a blanket over the whole forest. It's hot, but not like sun. It's dense, expectant, heavy with listening. You step back, and your shadow steps forward. Just a half step. A test. You take off running, not far, just enough to break rhythm to shake the pattern. You sprint through the vines, past the beetle tree, past the feather print you marked with chalk yesterday. And when you stop, the shadows are already waiting. Inside the next footprint, and the next, and the next, all filled, each one darker than the last. Not deep enough to fall into, but deep enough to forget yourself. You stare at one and you see shapes, not reflections, memories. A tail dragging through mud, trees bending away, a creature too large to fit into your thoughts. You blink hard. The image fades, but the feeling lingers. Historians still debate whether certain shadow pools, a name coined by 1970s jungle anthropologists, are geological anomalies or spiritual phenomena. Some suggest they're just peat-filled depressions that absorb more light. Others say they only appear where stories were never finished. You wonder which kind you found, or if somehow they're the same. You sit by one and lean over, staring hard. This one doesn't feel malicious. It feels hollow, like a story waiting for its last sentence. You whisper into it, not your name this time, but something older, a question. It answers, not in words, but in light. For just a blink, a flash one, you can't explain the print brightens, not lit. Just less dark. The shadows tremble, then settle. You back away slowly, not scared, just respectful. This isn't your story. You're just helping it walk. You look down. Your own shadow has returned to your side. Meek. As if nothing happened. As if it wasn't just exploring without permission. But now you know, it's not alone anymore. You aren't either, because the prints are full, and some of them are watching back. You don't leave the jungle so much as it lets you go. You notice it in pieces. First, the vines don't grab your sleeves as tightly. Then the prints start thinning out, not gone, just more spaced, as though the spirit following you is finally willing to take longer strides. The air gets lighter too, though not cooler, just quieter inside your chest. And somewhere along the way, you realize the second set of footprints hasn't stopped walking beside yours. They're barefoot. Always have been. Smaller than yours, but they've changed shape, no longer soft-edged or childlike. The toes have spread, grown longer, more grounded. The heel digs in deeper now, like it's learning your gait, matching your weight. You haven't seen the spirit, but it's walking next to you, and it knows the way out. You reach the clearing near the tree line just before dusk, where the jungle reluctantly ends and the first thin slopes of dry rock and grass begin. It feels abrupt, like a curtain being pulled back. The air doesn't buzz here. The shadows behave. The soil stops humming. But the prints, they follow. You stand at the threshold. Look back. The forest stares with the stillness of something that isn't sleeping, just paused. You kneel down at the last footprint before the boundary. It's yours, and it's not. Because next to it, nearly touching, is the other. Still barefoot, still watching. You place your hand in the print. Warm. Not heat, but something deeper. Like standing near a campfire that hasn't been lit in 1,000 years, but somehow remembers what it felt like to burn. You whisper, "Thank you." And the wind picks up just a little. A breeze, really, but shaped. Like an answer held in a palm. Odd fact. Some ancient Australian tribes believe that ancestral spirits would walk with you only until you reach the edge of where your bones were meant to end. Beyond that, you were meant to walk alone. Not because they abandoned you, but because that was where you were supposed to leave your tracks. You stand, start walking again, and that's when you notice something strange. Your footprints are no longer alone. Every step you take from here down the slope and into open land carries a shadow beside it. Not behind, beside. Barefoot. Lighter than yours, but constant. You test it. Step right. The second print steps right too. Step left. Same. Then you stop abruptly. And it does too. Exactly in sync. You smile. And you don't ask it to leave, because by now you know the truth. Some stories need two people to walk them. Even if only one of you remembers how to breathe. You keep walking. Your boots leave prints in soft dust. Next to you, the barefoot spirit keeps pace. Never ahead. Never behind. Side by side. Because in the end, it wasn't about being followed. It was about becoming the next set of footprints that someone else might find decades or centuries from now and wonder, did jungle spirits live in the footprints of sauropods? And your prints paired with theirs will be the only answer. You made it through. And even though you didn't run into any roaring monsters or dramatic chases, you met something older, quieter, and honestly, far more patient. In the steaming depths of the jungle where moss blankets the bones of memory, sauropod footprints aren't just fossils. They're listening devices, portals, shadows with breath. You stepped into those ancient impressions thinking you were exploring history. But somewhere along the way, the history started exploring you. From warm water humming at dusk, to beetles that live only in prehistoric memory, to frogs that whispered your name under a velvet night, every step pulled you deeper. The forest wasn't just filled with memory. It was shaped by it. Roots bent away from ancient weight. Shadows nested where the past refused to stay buried. And all the while, a spirit soft-footed, curious, walked beside you, borrowing your legs, teaching you rhythm. When you finally left, the footprints didn't stop. They followed, not as a haunting, but as a bond. A shared walk through time that's still unfinished. So next time you're out hiking and you see a depression in the dirt that looks just a little too round, or you hear your breath echo back in a voice that isn't quite yours, maybe you've stepped into something bigger than you, and something older has stepped into you.